Welcome to AKS Daily News Analysis of the Indian newspaper dated 10th February 2020 of Hyderabad edition. The first article here taken up from the page number 1 is talking about the J&K administration, the recently created union territory, which is offering investors a good amount of incentives so as to bring about investments to this union territory. Here they have mentioned about the uninterrupted internet as well as the Wi-Fi access. The irony is that from August 5th there is no kind of internet or a Wi-Fi access to the union territory, but yet if we see this Jammu and Kashmir's IT policy document as highlighted, saying that there is low crime as well as a clean air in the union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So it should provide the good incentives for the investors in order to come and invest in the Jammu and Kashmir. But yet, as per this Jammu and Kashmir IT policy of 2020, if we see, the administration here is offering an incentives to the IT companies by saying that they can operate in 3 shifts, and also they can facilitate women who are working during the night shifts will be provided with the transport as well as security. So at least 15% of plug-in and play premises in the designated IT park will be reserved for the women entrepreneurs. And the policy also documents say that Jammu and Kashmir contributes only 0.1% of the total cognizable crimes under the IPC. And the document which was shared by the investors says that they're planning for 2 IT parks with an area of 5 lakh square feet, which are being developed in Jammu and Srinagar. And this will also have a dedicated and uninterrupted broadband as well as Wi-Fi access. And this investment opportunities, they have shown the 14 sectors they have the investment opportunity in the union territory, which was unveiled in the investor conference in Delhi last month. So if we see on the whole, the internet has been snapped in this union territory from August 5th last year, after there was a revoke of the special status under Article 370 to the Jammu and Kashmir. But yet, following the Supreme Court's direction, the 2G mobile connectivity, that too was resorted last month, and that too that there is only access to the 301 government approved websites. And the policy here says that as a special destination for IT units, the land allotment would be decided on the top priority, and the government would encourage the private sector participants to become internet service providers and to enable high speed connectivity in all the panchayats of the Jammu and Kashmir. And coming to the real estate policy, because this is very important, as we know about the land owning terms in the Jammu and Kashmir. And if we see here, the real estate policy states that there is a vast land bank which is owned by the government, and this will be distributed to the private developers through a transparent bidding process. And here they try to specify that only government land would be used in order to establish the industries, hospitals and educational institutes, and nobody's land will be taken away. Being emphasized that if there is no industry could be set up in Jammu and Kashmir, and tourism could not also develop in Jammu and Kashmir because especially of the restrictions on land purchase due to the article which were guaranteed in the articles 370 and 35A. And these 2 revoked provisions of the constitution will let the Jammu and Kashmir legislatures decide the permanent residence of the states, providing the non-Jammu and Kashmir resident from buying the property in the state, and also ensuring the job reservation for the residents. So, but yet, if we see, many groups in the Jammu and Kashmir have demanded this domicile rights because they had fears of losing land as well as jobs to the outsiders. So this existing land acquisition laws would be amended in order to incorporate the landowners as stakeholders in the housing development, and the authorities, without going into the compulsory land acquisition, will either partner with private players on equity basis, or they will facilitate the land assembly by acquisition or through pooling through the private players, as it is done by the development authority in other states. So here the developers will have to reserve 20% of the dwellings units in a group housing projects for the economically weaker sections and the lower income groups, and the UT of Jammu and Kashmir is offering 100% exemption on stamp duty, land use charge, permission and construction and processing fee for the housing for the economically weaker sections as well as the lower income groups. And the policy here says that the government will persuade the National Housing Bank, other financial institutions, commercial banks and insurance sector in order to extend operations in Jammu and Kashmir to provide an affordable housing credit to the people. So all this shows amid, although there is a internet breakdown in this union territory of Jammu and Kashmir, but yet they want to make the provisions where the youth here who are getting radicalized can be actually given a channel of employment. For this purpose, they have come up with this IT policy of 2020 by offering them different kind of incentives so that the youth are meaningfully employed and the people over there are not losing their land, but they will move towards the development. So next article here is talking about there is a fourfold jump in the lithium ion batteries imports since 2016, and India lacks manufacturing capacity and it is the world's largest importer of this lithium ion batteries. If we look at the picture here, India here has quadrupled its imports of lithium ion batteries, and it has more than tripled its import bill on the products which are vital for powering a range of devices including our cell phones to electrical vehicles from 2016 to 2018. And responding to this query, the ministry has said that 175 million such batteries were imported in 2016 and their number rose to 313 million in 2017, and how we can see it's increased to 712 in 2018, and in the same way from January to November 2019 we saw that import 450 million. Coming to the cost, even the cost has been increasing with the starting of 383 or the 2600 crores in 2016, and now it has seen the increase up to 8700 crores in 2019. So but if you see, the Indian manufacturers get this lithium ion batteries from China, Japan as well as South Korea, and it is the largest importer of this lithium ion batteries. Talking about the manufacture of batteries within the India, it is ISRO who produces such type of batteries, but the volumes here are very limited and their use is only in the space applications. This type of dependence of India on this lithium ion batteries. So in June 2018, the Central Electrochemical Research Institute, which is present in Karaikudi of Tamil Nadu, under the CSIR and as well as the Rasi Solar Power Project, has signed a memorandum of understanding for transfer of technology for India's first lithium ion battery project. And for this effect, in order to promote the indigenous development of such batteries, the Union Cabinet in 2019 approved a program called as National Mission on Transformative Mobility and Battery Storage under the Niti Aayog to drive clean, connected, shared and sustainable and holistic mobility initiatives. But if we see, it is China which dominates this lithium ion battery market, and electrical vehicles are expected to account for a significant share in the growth of lithium ion battery demand in India. So though the report says that it is unlikely at least until 2025 because electric cars are still significantly costlier than the combustion engine counterparts, the government has announced investment was 1.4 billion in order to make India one of the largest manufacturing hub for the electrical vehicles in 2040. So next here at the data point, it is saying that the India needs for a speed, because as of December 2019, India ranked 128 among the 140 countries in terms of average mobile internet download speed. South Korea has topped the index with an average download speed of 103.18 Mbps. And if we see in the context of India, out of the 28 telecom operators, not even the single one operator has offered a download speed more than the average global average speed, which is 32.01. So among the major telecom operators, if we see, it is Reliance Jio's 4G download speed was relatively faster. And here the data is shown up for each state, where continuously it is the Jio which is doing far better numbers. And if we see on the average, Jio's 4G download speed is around 20.46, which is again less when compared to the global average, which is 32.01. And yet if we see, the graph here shows the average 4G download speed, whereas the Reliance is around 20 point, Jio, Airtel, Vodafone and Idea, it is becoming less, and sometime if we see, Jio is something between 10 to 15 GPS. So coming to the countries, if we see, China, our neighbor itself, is doing much better. It is on the list of 5 with giving an internet speed of average 67.71. And not only that, among the BRICS countries, if we see, it is India which is lagging behind. Otherwise, if you see, Russia is occupying a 96 position, Brazil 78, and China 5th position. And after South Korea, we see many of the Western Asian countries like UAE and Qatar are doing much better in the internet speed download. And across India, if we see, Jio's average download speed is 34.4 Mbps. In the Bihar circle was the fastest, and Idea's 3G Mbps in the Northeast was the most slower one. And the table here shows the average download speed across circles by major operators in the last 6-month period. The article here is talking about seeking a more progressive abortion law. They are here referring to the recently approved, cabinet approved bill called as Medical Termination of Pregnancy Bill, and the article here is going to argue about saying that this bill does not have enough in order to secure women's choice as well as their interest. If we look at the deaths due to unsafe abortions and also the previous attempts in order to legislate a woman's choice and interest, if we see, the deaths due to this unsafe abortions in the recent reports have shown that more than 10 women die every day in India due to the unsafe abortions. And this, because of this such type of backward abortion laws only have contributed to women seeking illegal and unsafe options. So the recently the cabinet has approved this medical termination of pregnancy bill of 2000, which will be soon tabled in the parliament. And this present amendment bill is seeking to amend this laws called as Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act of 1971. And this is followed by many kind of medical termination bills which were tabled in 2014, 17 as well as 18. All these 3 bills were lapsed in the parliament. So coming to the provisions in this current bill of Medical Termination of Pregnancy Amendment Bill of 2020. So here the provisions were based on the fetus age-based divisions has been done so that its regulatory framework for allowing abortions into categories according to the gestational age of the fetus. So under Section 3 for fetus that are aged up to 12 weeks, only one medical practitioner's opinion is required to the effect that the continuation of pregnancy would pose. Kindly see these 2 conditions to measure the risk, right? So here first it is talking about a risk to the life of the mother, or it may cause a grave injury to her physical or as well as the mental health. And the other one being that if there is any kind of substantial risk that if the child is born, it would suffer from such physical or mental abnormalities as to be seriously handicapped. In these 2 cases, they are going to see when giving an effect to the medical practitioner's opinion, right? So now coming to between 12 to 20 weeks, if the fetus is aged between this 12 to 20 weeks, at least 2 medical practitioners' opinion is required, confirming either to these 2 conditions. And what will happen beyond 20 weeks is that the termination may be still carried out whether it is only if it is necessary to save the life of a pregnant woman. And this act of medical termination bill has given a definition for what to be called as a grave injury, and here it means that they have tried to explain it by saying that it is the anguish caused by the pregnancy arising out of rape, or an anguish caused by an unwanted pregnancy arising out of a failure of contraceptive which was used either by a married woman or her husband. So, by thoroughly studying this current bill, there are a lot of issues that we can actually rectify within this medical termination of pregnancy amendment bill of 2020. The first problem here is that here they're talking about there is a lack of autonomy of the woman, because at all stages of pregnancy, whether it be 12 weeks or 12 to 20 or 20 above, it is the healthcare providers called as medical practitioners has a final say rather than the woman who is seeking an abortion, right? Although there are words like in this, there is nothing like the woman has to prove that there was really a failure of contraceptives or it was a grave injury. Although the bill is not seeking like a woman has to prove herself, but yet all this shows like the woman here has to plead this medical practitioners in order to get the abortion, right? It is again showing some kind of backward step to the woman. Rather, it should have been a bill where the pregnancy terminated is solely based on the will of a woman, right? At present, if we see this pregnant woman lack autonomy in making decisions in order to terminate their pregnancy, and they have to bear the additional mental stress as well as the financial burdens of getting the doctor's approval, right? And if we try to compare this present bill with the other countries which allow the abortions on request abortions, if we see, it happens in 67 countries including the Iceland, France, Canada, South Africa also, where women can get an abortion on request with or without a specific gestational limit, which is usually 12 weeks. The second flaw with the bill is that there is a prejudice against the married woman, because this medical termination pregnancy bill embodies a clear prejudice, saying that here in this act they have told that wherever there is a pregnancy occurs due to failure of any birth control devices or a method used by any married woman or her husband. So here it shows that it is presumed to constitute a grave injury to the mental health of the pregnant woman. So while the applicability is this provision to unmarried women is contested, there are always a lot of danger, and because there can be a more restrictive interpretation when the final decision rests with the doctors and not with the woman itself. So again she has to take a backstep door if a unmarried woman is getting pregnant. So in that case she has to put not only financial but also there will be a lot of mental burden on the woman. The third flaw within this law is that there is a restriction of 20 weeks limit, right? But if we see, due to the advancement in science and fetal abnormalities can now be detected even after 20 weeks, but yet the bill here allows abortion post 20 weeks only where it is necessary to save the life of the mother. So problem with this restriction is that even if a substantial fetal abnormality is detected and the mother does not want to bear, lifelong care, giving responsibility and the mental agony associated with it, the law here does not give any kind of recourse unless there is a prospect or a health defect to the mother itself. So on the whole, we can say that this medical termination of pregnancy amendment bill is a very right step in the direction, but yet it fails to address these three problems. First is that it does not allow abortion on request at any point after pregnancy. Second is that it does not take a step towards removing prejudices against the unmarried woman by amending the relevant provision. And finally, it enhances the gestational limit for legal abortions from 20 to 24 only for specific categories of women such as survivors of rape or victims of incest or minors. So this means that a woman who does not fall under any of these categories would not be able to seek an abortion beyond this 20 weeks, and even if she suffers from great physical or mental injury due to pregnancy. So on the whole, we can conclude by saying that this bill does not make upper gestational limit irrelevant in procuring an abortion if there are substantial fetal abnormalities that are diagnosed by the medical board. That means that even if there is no threat to mother's life, she should be able to procure an abortion as soon as she comes to know that there is a substantial fetal abnormalities comes to the light. While this should have been the case, but yet if we see in the past, many helpless women have fought long battles in the court without any kind of recourse. And now, if we see, it is crucial that this provision is accompanied by appropriate rules for the medical boards that guard unnecessary delays, which only increase the risk associated with late abortions. So, on the whole, if we see, even the Supreme Court has recognized the woman's right to make the reproductive choices and their decisions to abort as a dimension of their personal liberty in the X versus Union of India case of 2011, and as a falling within the realm of fundamental rights of privacy. It has even given its judgment in KS Puttaswamy versus Union of India 2017. Yet, if we see, the current abortion law is failing to allow the exercise of this right, and it is, although first of all, before we even think about these provisions, the one thing that we need to remember here is that unlike the before bills that got lapsed in the parliament, this bill also should not get lapsed in the parliament. The article here is describing about the interview with the Prime Minister of Bhutan, that is Lotte Shering. Sorry if I am pronouncing it wrong. But here they're trying to say, the Bhutan Prime Minister is trying to say that the people, even if they are trying to criticize them, but environment is a top priority of the Bhutan. What a beautiful words that he has specified, and it truly shows the why the Bhutan still calculates the happiness of their citizens rather than giving the importance to the GDP, unlike any other underdeveloped countries or the developing countries like India. Right. So here he tries to justify his commitment to the sustainability and the decision that they have taken in order to levy the tourism fee and also to stay out of the regional transport pact. So first, talking about what is this BBI and MVE, it is nothing but the Bangladesh, Bhutan, India and Nepal Motor Vehicle Agreement. So India has proposed in its SAARC 18th SAARC meeting of 2014 in Kathmandu, it has proposed something like SAARC Motor Vehicle Agreement. So that it will allow the member states in order to ply their vehicles for transportation, and in order to not only transportation of people but also cargo as well as the passenger. But yet Pakistan has defied it, saying that did not agree to this motor vehicle agreement of SAARC. So in 2015 in Thimphu, Bhutan, they have agreed this BBI and MVA, that is Bangladesh, Bhutan and Nepal. So this agreement will enter into force only after it is ratified by all the four member nations. The agreement has been ratified by Bangladesh, India and Nepal. But the Bhutanese Prime Minister has rejected such type of thing, and they have requested a cap for a fixed of number of vehicles entering the territory of Bhutan. And the Bhutan government has told that Indian government can proceed with the agreement without the Bhutan, as the Bhutan government was unable to ratify the agreement in the light of the environmental concerns they have with the increasing of this vehicular traffic from other nations, as it would affect the Bhutanese truckers and also as it will cause the environmental damage. But if we look at now, the Bhutan and India has a bilateral agreement between India and Bhutan, which already permits a seamless vehicle movement between the two countries. So therefore, Bhutan's decision not to ratify this BBI and MVA would only affect its trade with Bangladesh as well as in Nepal, but it will not give much effect to India. In 2018, India has approved around $1.8 million for the upgradation of this project, and this project also will receive the 50 fundings from the Asian Development Bank, and there is a prospect or the vision of this vehicular movement is that it will increase the regional trade by 60%. Now let us look at what the Prime Minister of Thimphu has got to say. So though the Bhutan joined the meeting of Bangladesh BBI and MVA as an observer, but the Prime Minister says that their decision to stay out of the transport treaty and to introduce the levy on Indian tourists is based on their country's environmental carrying capacity. And when asked about does the new fee mean that you want to discourage too many visitors coming to Bhutan, and he has given a beautiful answer saying that absolutely not, they do not want to encourage or discourage the people coming into Bhutan, but their policy is of high value and low volume, and it is mainly they have taken this in the contest because they are very limited size and their carrying capacity for the visitors is limited. So the roads here, they are very facing a limited area, and because the Bhutan has 72% of their land under forest cover, now they are trying to enhance it, but rather than discouraging the people from coming into Bhutan. So they say that with the time, if they have no doubt that they will have many tourists from India as well as the other regional countries. So in the last few years, their numbers have been growing from few thousands to now they have around 100,000 coming here each year. So in order to provide them the value for the money that they are spending when needed, when they are coming to the Bhutan, so the government feels that they needed a better system in place, so that they will also want to redistribute the tourists among the destinations, because that is why now they have put up this sustainable development fee that will be not charged for those people who are traveling to 11 out of the 20 districts. Only if the people are traveling to the 9 districts where usually it is considered to be the tourist destination. So in order to have a distribution equally across the Bhutan, they have brought this sustainable development fee. So when asked about if the Bhutan is worried that the decision to levy this fee of just 1200 rupees would affect Indians who always earlier enjoyed the free entry to Bhutan, or will it affect any kind of bilateral ties, he beautifully says here that the worry is whether if they can cater to the hundreds of thousands of visitors with their carrying capacity, and the bigger worry is for them is that about the motor vehicular accidents involving especially the regional tourists. So in a long run, they think that only value add to the good relations between the two neighbors, and they think that only 1200 would not be a problem to the Indian tourists who want to visit Bhutan. And when asked about the MVA, that is motor vehicular agreement, if the Bhutan is trying to reconsider, then they have a proper reason saying that their decision for tourist fee or the infrastructure there in Bhutan does not have a carrying capacity in order to allow the truck traffic to travel through the Bhutan. And if at all in future, if they are improving the infrastructure and their economy will improve as well as the trade at some point, so definitely it is the Bhutan which is also going to benefit from it. But currently, given their infrastructure, they won't be able to cater properly to their own local needs. So as a result, despite there is economic potential for Bhutan, but yet because of their country's commitment, because as of today, the Bhutan is a carbon negative country, and today we all know about the motor vehicles are the biggest emitters of greenhouse gases, and that is the reason they cannot have too many visitors, and they cannot even be part of this BBI and MVA. This is the essence of their country's rituals or the principles that they have lived upon, that they calculate only gross national happiness, and they do not measure any kind of monetary terms alone. And they give beautifully emphasized by saying that the main objective of for tourism is not to make money but to use it as the way in order to build Bhutan's brand and have visitors who wish to visit again and again. So they say that their mountains, forest cover, clean rivers, being deeply spiritual country, simple and yet accommodative people, these are all what makes them very unique. And Bhutan may economically be underdeveloped, but they give very importance to the environment as a top priority and not to the money alone. So the article here is talking about there is no tally of government buildings to be made accessible. This is in context to the Accessible India campaign. We all know about it, to make accessibility a right for the Divyang people. But yet, if we see from the past 4 years, which was launched in order to make the public offices, transport as well as website accessible to the Divyang people, but yet the officials say that at the recent review meeting that the number of buildings of the Central Public Works Department across the country as well as the websites of MIT were not known. So it is during the review by the Social Justice and Empowerment Minister, he has come up by saying that Department of Empowerment of PWD officials said that the total number buildings are either under maintenance which are owned by the CPW are not known. But yet, if we see the official data here of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs under the CPW, which operates, has said that 787 out of the 889 buildings have been made accessible so far, while approval for 13 buildings has been received from various ministries and work would be started. And for the remaining 89 buildings, approval of the respective ministries is still awaited. On government website, if we say that there is a target to make at least 50% of the sites accessible. However, the quantum of websites, that is total number of government websites itself, is not known. So how, if the websites itself is not known, how do we calculate that they have achieved at least 50% of the target? So in this context, the present ministry has directed the MIT in order to find out the total number of central as well as state websites. And coming to the transportation, the ministry noted that while there has been progress in making airports accessible, all aspects of air travel, including aircraft and buses used to ferry passengers from terminals, needed to be in compatibility. And here the Minister of Civil Aviation has said that 35 international airports and the 55 domestic airports under the Airport Authority of India has been made accessible by providing ramps, and they have had accessible toilets and provisions for audio and braille commands in the lifts. And the railway officials have said that there are 7,000 wheelchairs has been provided at major stations, and 22 stations had online booking on wheelchair facility. So the minister here has expects concerns that the Ministry of Road Transport told him that only 3.6% of the buses have been made fully accessible to the Divyang people. So next article here is talking about in order to start a new business with e-forms. We all know in the recent budget as well as in economic survey the government here is talking about the wealth creation and how it is important for them to do the rankings in the ease of doing business, right? So in its continuous efforts in order to improve this ease of doing business, the government will now introduce an integrated electronic form for incorporating new companies from the February 15th of this year, where this form will also include EPFO as well as ESIC registration numbers will be allocated at the same time, and this will be introduced by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs in the form called as Spice Plus. Earlier it was only Spice. Now they have upgraded it to involve 10 services within it, and the abbreviation of SPICE, if we see, it is simplified performa incorporating companies electronically, and this will replace the SPICE Plus. So the 10 services offered through the new form will help in saving as many procedures, time and cost for starting a business in India, And the incorporation of companies, if we see, they are made through the Corporate Affairs Minister's portal, namely MAC 21. The new form will be available on this portal of MAC 21.